Israelis are rejoicing at the news that we have closed the account with Yahya Sinwar, the overall leader of Hamas and the mastermind of the October 7, 2023 massacre of Israelis. As Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, this is the beginning of the day after Hamas. Now, there are questions that are being raised about what will happen next, what Israel will do with Sinwar's body, and what this means for Israel's broader war against many enemies, including Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria. For now, we can say that Hamas is crumbling in the northern Gaza city of Jabalia, while Hamas has published another big lie about the supposed massacre of civilians in the Gaza Strip. But their lies was soon revealed. The other big story today is the attempted assassination of Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, which came in the form of a drone strike launched by Hezbollah in Lebanon and aimed at his private residence in the coastal city of Caesarea. 3 drones were fired at Netanyahu's residence, with 2 big intercepted and 1 hitting a house in the same neighborhood but missing its target. There was no alarm sounded to give people time to get into shelters, and an investigation into this latest failure in the defense system is currently underway. The battle against Hezbollah inside southern Lebanon also continues, with the IDF reporting on Sunday that over the weekend about 175 terror targets in Lebanon and Gaza were destroyed. Another senior Radwan force field commander was among those that were neutralized, along with weapons, storage depots, and command centers in the southern Beirut neighborhood of Dahya. In a related story, there is mounting evidence that UNIFIL has become an active collaborator with Hezbollah in Lebanon, just as UNRWA was and still is an active collaborator with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We have a lot of ground to cover today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your boots on the ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 380th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and all the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, all of whom are being directed by the head of the snake of evil in the Middle East, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Before we start, please click on the subscribe button so that you will never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Let's start by giving credit to the IDF's troops who are responsible for the elimination of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas. As has been widely reported, this was not a planned operation, and in fact, there was no prior intelligence information about Sinwar's location. The soldiers who fired the shots that ended his evil terrorist career did not even know that they were engaging with anyone of particular importance. They were simply firing at Hamas terrorists who they observed moving near their position and only found out later who they were shooting at. These soldiers were young, and in fact, they were still in a training course with the School of Platoon Commanders and Professions of the Infantry, known by its Hebrew acronym Bislach. A tank from Company L of the Tank Commanders Course 195th Shizafon Battalion fired at the building in the course of this engagement, and according to the assessments and findings at the scene, Sinwar was severely injured as a result of this tank shell. A short time later, infantry forces of the 450th Battalion did a sweep of the building using drones, one of which discovered Sinwar seriously wounded and sitting on a chair along with other suspicious objects. Subsequently, the drone withdrew and machine gun fire was directed into that room, after which the troops went in on foot. Sinwar was one of the 3 Hamas terrorists in the room, and the IDF is investigating the possibility that one of the other eliminated terrorists was a general in the Khan Yunis brigade of Hamas who was close to Sinwar from the beginning of this war. If so, he would be one of 2 Hamas generals eliminated over the weekend, as another senior leader is also believed to have been eliminated in an airstrike. In any case, it is important that we make it very clear to you that this was not a planned operation, but rather a random encounter that occurred without the benefit of prior planning or intelligence. It was unlike the elimination of other senior terrorist leaders in this war, such as Mohammed Deif or Hassan Nasrallah. Other important details include what the IDF troops found on the bodies of Sinwar and his henchmen who perished along with him in this battle. It includes over 40,000 Israeli shekels in cash, which is equivalent to over $10,000. They were also carrying fake IDs and other documents which indicates that they were attempting to flee the Gaza Strip, possibly making their way to Egypt, and then from there they could have gone anywhere they would want. They were also carrying rifles, grenades, and other weapons. In fact, the building was filled with explosives, which made examining the bodies very difficult. The initial search was made with drones equipped with cameras. Soon, the building was determined to be safe, and the troops went in to collect forensic evidence to compare with the dental records, fingerprints, and DNA information that the Israeli police had on file from the time that Yahya Sinwar spent in Israeli prisons. Only after there was positive identification did the IDF release an official statement that Sinwar had been eliminated, saying the leader of the terrorist organization Hamas and the person responsible for the October 7th massacre has been killed. His death was confirmed after the process of identifying the body was completed. Yahya Sinwar promoted his murderous ideology during and before the war, and he is responsible for the murder and kidnapping of many Israelis. Shortly after, IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari made a statement on Thursday evening in which he provided additional details about the situation, including a video taken by a drone of Sinwar's last movements. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also released a statement saying that the person who carried out the most terrible massacre in our nation's history since the Holocaust has been eliminated. We have reckoned with him. Evil has suffered a severe blow, but the task before us is not yet completed. He addressed the residents of Gaza and the terrorists who are holding the hostages, adding, "Sinwar ruined your lives. He told you he was a lion, but in reality, he was hiding in a dark den, and he was killed when he fled in panic from our soldiers." His termination is an important milestone in the downfall of the evil rule of Hamas. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, congratulated Israel on Thursday evening, saying that this is a good day for Israel, the United States, and the world. Vice President Kamala Harris also issued a statement saying Sinwar was responsible for the killings of thousands of people. He had American blood on his hands. In his conversation with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, United States Defense Minister Lloyd Austin emphasized that the deployment of the Tahad battery protection represents the unwavering, ongoing commitment of the United States to Israel's security and reiterated its right to defend itself. Now, Israel is faced with some new questions, including the issue of what will be done with Sinwar's body. A decision has not yet been made in Israel, but one possibility is that the body of Yahya Sinwar will be offered in exchange for Israel's remaining hostages. In addition, the IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari revealed videos on Saturday evening of Sinwar from the night before the massacre of October 7, 2023. In these videos, he is seen carrying equipment to a hiding place. Other previously classified videos, photographs, and other information about the long pursuit of Sinwar were also released. Hagari said, "Tonight we are revealing materials from the IDF and Shin Bet's pursuit of Yahya Sinwar. As part of the pursuit, we traced his actions in the hours before the massacre in order to understand his escape route. Even on the evening before the massacre, Sinwar was busy with his personal survival and the survival of his family members. In the video, you can see how he and his family members sneak into an underground complex under their house on October 6th, hours before the massacre. For hours, Sinwar and his son go up and down, equip themselves with food, a plasma screen, and mattresses. Why did he act alone? In order to maintain the partition. Sinwar built an underground fortress in Khan Yunis. This is where he hid and ordered the attack. In February, IDF forces entered Khan Yunis, and there we located the route where he was underground. There we found a compound for a long stay, including toilets and showers, beds, uniforms, and safes. Several times our forces were very close to him and reached his location shortly after he managed to escape. What we showed tonight proves once again that the leaders of the terrorist organization Hamas, whoever they are, do not care about the lives of the residents of Gaza. As can be seen, Sinwar cared first and foremost about himself and his personal survival. After his assassination, there are those who are trying to restore his honor. Sinwar lived and behaved as a wanted terrorist, hiding and escaping while the war was going on near and above him. Hamas terrorists operated when the leaders were hiding and making every effort to escape. There were no hostages with Sinwar at the time of his assassination. In related news, the IDF estimates that the residents of the Jabalia refugee camp have begun to leave their homes and move to safe zones to the south following news that Sinwar has been eliminated. This development comes 2 weeks after the beginning of the maneuver of Division 162 in Jabalia. Witnesses said that Hamas was preventing civilians from leaving the area so that they could stay and be used as human shields for the terrorists. But now that Sinwar is no longer in command, Hamas appears to have lost some of its determination to carry out these cruel orders. In addition to that, over the last 24 hours, the IDF forces have observed a breach between the residents of Jabalia and the Hamas terrorists. The IDF has put pressure on Hamas in the area over recent days using 3 brigade combat teams. The intensity of the fighting has noticeably increased, and the IDF also said that the Hamas fighters who remain appear to be less well-trained and skilled in using their weapons and equipment than what was observed in earlier rounds of the fighting. Now, there seemed to be a breakthrough, with many residents leaving the area and Hamas either not trying to stop them or not having as much success in stopping them. The IDF believes that this is the result of combat losses amongst the Hamas fighters, along with the news of Sinwar's death, which has led to a drop in their morale, as well as the fear that many Hamas fighters and also civilians had of acting against his orders. IDF officials have expressed hopes that this will build momentum towards ending this conflict and the return of the remaining hostages. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on the situation in Gaza. But for now, let's move on to the war on the northern border. On Saturday, while Israelis were trying to enjoy the Sabbath, over 190 rockets crossed into Israeli territory from Lebanon, causing some damage and several fires to break out in wooded areas and agricultural fields. One rocket also hit near a car, killing the driver and wounding a passenger. A senior Magen David Adom paramedic said that we arrived at the scene and saw a vehicle damaged by shrapnel. The driver of the vehicle, a man about 50 years old, was fatally injured and died after attempts to save his life. The passenger next to him, who was bending over during the explosion, was slightly injured and treated on the spot. This is a good place to tell you that Magen David Adom is the sponsor of today's video. This organization is busy 24 hours every day, 7 days a week, caring for people all over Israel who are hurt in terrorist attacks, rocket strikes, ordinary car and work accidents, and also on happy occasions such as the birth of a new baby. The 35,000 employees and volunteers of Magen David Adom are the primary emergency response agency in Israel, and they are entirely reliant on donations. So if you want to help them, you can donate by visiting www.savelifeisrael.com. Now back to the news. The IDF spokesman issued an update on Sunday on the continuation of the ground activity in southern Lebanon and the airstrikes against Hezbollah, and stated that in the last 24 hours, dozens of Hezbollah terrorists have been eliminated. Large stocks of weapons and ammunition also continue to be found and destroyed or captured, as well as fighting positions, tunnels, and bunkers. It was also reported that the Air Force, under the direction of the Northern Command, attacked and eliminated more than 65 Hezbollah terrorists in southern Lebanon and attacked dozens of Hezbollah terror targets, including terrorist squads, launchers aimed at the territory of the State of Israel, and military buildings. The El-Manar network, which is a branch of Hezbollah, reported in the early hours of Sunday morning that the IDF was carrying out a wave of attacks in the Dahya district in southern Beirut. The report came after the IDF spokesman in Arabic, Lieutenant Colonel Avichai Aderi, called on the residents of two neighborhoods in Dahya to evacuate their homes. They were told to move away to a distance of at least 500 meters of every Hezbollah known building. Earlier, the IDF confirmed that yesterday the terrorist Nasser Abed El-Ziz Rashid, the deputy commander of the Bin Jbal sector of Hezbollah, was among those that were eliminated. Elsewhere, soldiers of the 36th Division's combat team located and destroyed many weapons, including a hive of rocket launchers and anti-tank missile launchers of the Kornet type that was ready to be launched towards northern Israeli communities. Rockets and other combat equipment were found as well. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on what is happening on the northern border, and we ask you to continue helping us spread the truth. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us reach 1 million subscribers. You can share these videos on YouTube and follow us on social media. Also, please visit our website at tbnisrael.com/news to receive regular updates and in-depth articles on what is happening in Israel in real time. Now, I want to pass this report over to my colleague, TBN Senior Analyst Mati Shoshani, for a closer look at the situation with Hezbollah.
Thank you, Yair. Let's start with a broader view of what's happening in the north. Hezbollah is trying very hard to project an image that its capabilities have not been seriously harmed, while senior Lebanese officials stress that the situation in the land of the Cedars will not return to normal after the war. Now, we're not just talking about leaders who belong to the opposition, but also leaders of factions that have traditionally been aligned with Hezbollah, but are now trying to break the political stagnation that Nasrallah imposed on Lebanon in the last 2 years. For instance, Najib Mikati, who is the acting prime minister of the transitional government, issued a statement over the weekend condemning the blatant Iranian interference in the affairs of Lebanon, end quote. His statement was published following statements made by the Speaker of the Parliament of Tehran, Mohammed Khalibaf, to the French newspaper Le Figaro. In that interview, he hinted that Iran would be ready to negotiate with Paris on the implementation of Resolution 1701, which deals with the withdrawal of Hezbollah forces from southern Lebanon. Mikati treated this as a scandal, that's his quote, and arranged for a senior official in the Iranian embassy to be summoned to the Lebanese foreign ministry. The statement awakened Lebanon's old fear of returning to being a protectorate, meaning it's a state that is de facto managed by foreign entities. Hezbollah has long served as Iran's client to directly affect affairs inside Lebanon. But it seems that direct and open Iranian control is something the Lebanese are no longer willing to put up with. And at the same time, the blows that Israel has dealt to Hezbollah in recent weeks have knocked it to the ground, and it is having difficulty getting up. Like a wounded animal, the Shiite terrorist organization continues to launch barrages of missiles at Israel, while pockets of fighters continue to battle the IDF in the villages of southern Lebanon. And although in disorganized and disconnected fashion, the existential threat of Hezbollah is believed to pose to Israel because of its massive arsenal of close to 200,000 rockets and missiles, along with its battalions of trained and battle-hardened Radwan force commandos, all ready to invade the Galilee, have largely been neutralized. Now, some are beginning to suspect that the threat from Hezbollah was always overhyped, and now that it's being met with serious military power from the IDF, it is disintegrating before our eyes. However, in Hezbollah's difficult hour, there are those who come to its aid and seek to reduce the military pressure that Israel is exerting on it. Alongside Hezbollah, or more precisely against Israel, UNIFIL the UN force stationed in southern Lebanon, whose mission, ironically and ridiculously, is keeping the peace, quote, along the borders and preventing the activities of Hezbollah terrorists in the area south of the Litani River, only a few kilometers or miles from Israel. For an entire year, since October 8, 2023, when Hezbollah joined the Hamas attack against us, UNIFIL's voice was not heard. The organization's forces became invisible and in practice allowed Hezbollah operatives to attack Israel unimpeded. Not even a condemnation of Hezbollah's attacks could be extracted from UNIFIL or from the UN itself. But now when Israel is returning fire and working to keep Hezbollah away from the border, UNIFIL has suddenly woken up, and it is trying to put up impediments to the Israeli campaign. For example, it has refused to evacuate its forces from the battle zones, insisting on staying and acting as a shield for Hezbollah. There's nothing new about this. After all, inaction and idleness are an inseparable part of the organization's DNA, even since it was established in 1978. After UNIFIL arrived in Lebanon, it refrained from acting against the PLO terrorists who ruled southern Lebanon at the time, and also against Hezbollah, who soon took their place, and instead led them continue to carry out terrorist acts against Israel. After the Second Lebanon War in 2006, UNIFIL's missions expanded, and it was tasked with preventing the presence and activity of Hezbollah in the area south of Litani. However, instead of fulfilling the mission, UNIFIL preferred to live in coexistence alongside Hezbollah operatives while allowing them to operate in the Shia villages in southern Lebanon, where they openly made preparations to attack Israel. In addition to all of this, there is a straight line connecting UNIFIL in southern Lebanon and UNRWA, the partner of Hamas in Gaza, which also operates in Lebanon, by the way. Both of these UN missions were initially established to achieve lofty goals, which concern peacekeeping and caring for the welfare of the Palestinian refugees. But both quickly degenerated into operations that looked for excuses not to do what they were sent to do, prolonging rather than solving the problems they were meant to deal with. The question of what will happen next with UNIFIL, UNRWA, and the UN's broader presence in the region remains open. Now, I'll send it back over to Yair Pinto.
Thank you, Mati, for the analysis of the situation on the northern border. I would like to ask our viewers to continue spreading the truth, share our videos on YouTube, and follow us on social media. Take a minute to look for the subscribe button and click on it so that you will never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. To conclude today's report, the IDF announced on Saturday afternoon that 3 UAVs crossed into Israeli airspace from Lebanon. 2 of them were intercepted and another UAV hit a building in Caesarea. The Prime Minister's spokesman confirmed that the UAV was launched towards the Prime Minister's house in Caesarea. The Prime Minister and his wife were not there, and there were no casualties in the incident. I would like to pay my last respects to the heroes of Israel who fell defending the country over the past few days. Sergeant Elishai Jong, 19 years of age, from Dimona, from the 52nd Battalion of the Armored Corps, fell in the battle in the Gaza Strip. On Wednesday, 5 soldiers were killed in action in southern Lebanon. They were Major Ofek Baker, 24 years of age, from Nes Ziona, a commander of the platoon in the Givati Brigade. Also killed in the battle were Captain Elad Simantov, 23 years of age, from Mispas, Sergeant Eliashiv Eitan Vidar, 22 years of age, from Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, Sergeant Yaakov Hillel, 21 years of age, from Jerusalem, and Sergeant Yehuda Dror Yalom, 21 years of age, from Hebron. Several other Israeli soldiers and civilians were wounded in recent days, either in battle or in rocket and terror attacks inside Israel. Guys, please continue to spread the truth, share and follow us, and most importantly, pray. Please pray for the peace of the IDF soldiers that are defending us. Pray for the quick return of the Israeli hostages from Gaza back home. Pray for peace with the people of Israel and its neighbors in this region. And most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.